Hey everybody, it is Libby with Fearlessness. What is fearlessness? It's that underlying grit that empowers us entrepreneurs to keep forging ahead. Even when hope seems distant, it's the courage to walk through those fires of hell, knowing that we'll come out better and stronger on the other side. Stay tuned and learn how to get fearlessness. I'm your host, Libby DeLucien, and today my guest is Aaron. Aaron, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, Libby. Thank you for having me on today. I'm really excited. My name is Aaron Coleman. I own Platinum Star Cleaning Services out in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. And how long have you been doing it?
I started the business in 2018. We're just celebrating our 6th year.
Oh, awesome. And so if you don't
Yeah.
know about Aaron or follow him on social media, I think you sold the house, but you had a beautiful house.
Yes.
Didn't you sell it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had the big house, and our lifestyle just kind of changed with my husband and I. So we it's first started when we had a trailer, so we wanted to go camping, and we realized we went to a seasonal campsite where we put the trailer at, and we kind of realized at that time that we didn't really need a lot of space to actually live, and we went back home and we had this big house, and one summer we spent the whole summer at camp, and all the flower pots are dead, the things need to be cut down. It's like, and the grass is a little, the gardener didn't come that week, and so we were like, we really need to reevaluate our life now. And so what we did, we kind of said we need to downsize. And at that point we were paying rent for an office, and we had some horrible rains here last year, and our office flooded multiple times. And it got to the last time of the rains that we had, and we had to move our business back to our house, which was an absolute nightmare. At that time, we had, I think, about 15 or 18 employees. And so, packing up a 2,000 square foot office and putting stuff in storage and then debating what you need. And I mean, it was just insane. So that was really the push for us to really get the house listed. And we started looking at different different styles of living. So we looked at some buildings, and we said, this might not be a bad idea. So we looked in the town that we lived in, and we basically we couldn't find anything that worked for us. So we looked across the river in Pennsylvania, and we found a building in downtown Easton, which is a very up and coming city out here in Lehigh Valley. And my husband looked at the building first, and he said, listen, I want you to come look at it. And I said, okay, fine, I'll come look at it. I wasn't really too sure about it. And I walked in, and I was in it for maybe like a minute, and I said, okay, sell the house. It's like, list the house, let's get it for sale. So we did. And this is where I am at right now, upstairs. And this is going to be our living space that we're renovating.
Awesome.
And our
So
office is downstairs right now.
And your office is downstairs. Love that story about kind of this like life-changing. I think as our businesses grow, the capacity of what we want or can deal with changes. And
yeah, most definitely. Yeah. There's
if you
a
look
lot
at
of things that
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, like you said, the capacity of our life changes, and it really does, because we realize that our time is so important, and we didn't want to have to deal with the lawn care and the gardeners and the maintenance of the big house, and all of those things really played a big story into making this huge life change for us.
Yep, absolutely. And if you think about some of our happiest moments, they happen, this is business aside, they happen when you're on vacation in a hotel room, right? They happen when you are literally in a hotel room with a suitcase and nothing to do, nothing to clean, nothing to take care of, nothing to maintain. You can actually relax. And so it goes to show you like how much do we really need is subjective to everybody. I'm super minimalist. Like, I don't have a picture in my house. I don't have nothing on the walls. Like, I ripped all the cabinets out of my kitchen and I put floating
Yeah.
shelves, and there's still nothing on the shelves. I told my husband, I said, eventually I should put something on the shelves, but I threw everything out or donated it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said that because we designed the kitchen and we had all these cabinets in the kitchen, and the whole wall was just all glass cabinets, and we kept looking at it and looking at the design of it, and I was like,
Like, no,
I
don't want to
don't
clean that.
know. I was like, let's get rid of that. Let's just keep that wall clean. So we're just
Yes.
doing the base cabinets for now, and we're going to kind of just feel out the space. And that's kind of what we want to do is we just want to basically have, you know, very minimal walls. We're not putting in a guest bedroom. We're just going to have a very large bedroom, large bathroom, large, living space, and just keep it very minimal. We were actually in the building this weekend, and we had to rearrange some stuff downstairs for when the contractors come in because that's where our house is essentially, and we had to move some stuff. And I said, Tony, I said we need to throw out more stuff. I was like, there is just way too much stuff in this room. I'm like, we need to chuck more out. And that's what we did. We just started purging and just getting rid of more and more stuff. We gave a lot of our stuff away to our employees, furniture and dishes and bedding and all sorts of things. So
I think as our businesses grow and we evolve, when you said purge, I'm going to start to segue into some business questions, but I read the book, Live Your Future Self Now. And I understand the concept, but I was in my house and I looked around, I looked at my husband. So there's this, I have a screensaver on my phone, and it's, I am $100 million CEO.
I saw that.
Yeah. And so I was looking at my house, and my house is always very minimal. It's always tidy. I was looking, I said, this is not how a $100 million CEO lives. And it has nothing to do with like fancy cars. I don't even have a car. I sold my car, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to drive anywhere. It has nothing to do with fanciness or being pretentious. It has to do like, how does a $100 million CEO live? What am I worried about? What am I keeping? What do I need to purge or part with because it's grounding me to this time in my life and I need to move to the next phase? And I cleaned out my entire house. We took everything, and I got my kids on board. I got my husband on board, and we just started to purge, and we put it in the driveway. We told our employees, then we posted it in the community, come get it. It's free. And I just said, this is not, if this is what I want to be, this is right here where I'm living is not what that looks like. And so I need to make adjustments and also capacity in your life. Like the time I have and the lessons I've learned, it's like, do I need these things taking up my time? Do I need these things taking up the space? And so it was a great learning lesson because I had cleaned up my diet. I have cleaned, like, my office in Fort Myers is beautiful. Like, we redid it. I lost weight, cleaned up my diet. And I'm like, what's left? And it was my house.
Yeah.
It was so affecting my entrepreneur journey. Was that what was my environment like? Yep.
It's so true too, because I read somewhere that, life is about experiences. It's not about the stuff. And it's so true because we don't need a lot of things. Everyone thinks they need the nice cars and the big house and all of that stuff. And you really don't. It's just material. And I think when you come to that point in your life, when you realize that it is just material stuff, that you really don't need it. And like you said, you don't have a car. I have a really beautiful X7 BMW. I don't drive it anymore. We're in a city. So I said to my husband, I said, let's just get rid of the car. I don't drive it. He goes, well, don't. I said, we could go down to one vehicle. I said, I don't like to drive. I said, I can walk in the city. I can get everything that I need. I don't really need it anymore. And he said, okay, we'll think about it. I said, but I'm still pushing it. I'm still trying to get rid of the car.
So we had 4 cars, and we got rid of all of them but one. We kept one, and it was like my husband's original Mazda. He bought it brand new. not original car he had, but it was his Mozzie he bought. And we said, okay, we'll keep it for Austin, our 15-year-old who's getting ready to turn 16 in like 2 weeks. We'll keep it for him. And we're going to go look for a new car for us. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm good. I don't want a car. I don't want to drive. Everybody's like, how do you get anywhere? I'm like, either I Uber or I call Instacart, or Chris just drives me in the Mazda. I don't care. But I don't have to
It's
drive
just a car.
myself. I don't have to drive
Yeah.
myself. So I'm like, oh, this is nice. And
Mhm.
it's funny because there's stages of wealth, they call it, right? It's crappy car. It was like crappy car, normal car, nice car, no car, crappy car, nice car, no car. So you go back from, right? It's no car, crappy
Yeah.
car, nice
Yeah.
car, and then back to no car. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I
That's
guess I've made
exactly
it.
where I'm at.
I've made it.
Yeah.
I don't want a car.
Yeah. That's great. We really don't need it, especially. I mean,
No.
like you travel all the time, and it's we don't really need it. It's just another expense that I just look at, and I'm like, I don't use it. It was nice when I was able. Yes, I can get this great big beautiful car, and now I just look at it, and I'm like, it's just a car.
Yeah, and for me, it was capacity. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to wash it. I don't want to worry about maintenance. I don't care. Like I'm
Hmm.
thinking about other
Yeah.
things now. I'm like, I'd rather just Uber if I need to go somewhere, or I don't leave my house very much. So we Instacart everything to the house.
Hmm.
So it's just
Yeah.
interesting how our mindsets evolve as we grow and the things that are important to us kind of shift. So
Hmm.
that being said, I want to kind of segue into some business questions, the lessons and growth. What do you think the most powerful lesson you've learned since starting your business is?
I would say right now at this point, I think learning to say no is the big one. I have really focused a lot on that in the past 6 months. Is to don't do things that I don't want to do, or don't do things that don't make me happy. I used to say yes to everything, and now it's if it doesn't bring me internal happiness, then I don't want to do it. If I don't walk away from it saying, "Wow, I just learned this amazing thing," or "I spent so much time uh, you know, learning from that experience," then I just won't do it. And and I think also too is communication. Communication is key with your employees, with your office staff, with everyone that is around you, and systems and processes. That's you really need that, just not in your business, but also in your personal life as well. And that's where my focus is kind of turning right now, is to back to me and the system and process of my life, and growing spiritually in a very big way, and changing my mindset and how I perceive things and look at things.
That's awesome. I love to hear that
Hmm.
because I think our businesses reach a certain growth level and that they're going to plateau unless we grow ourselves and we start to put ourselves first.
Hmm.
I always thought that was
Yeah.
selfish. Like, oh, that you have to think of you first. You have to make time for you first. I always thought that was selfish, until I understood what it meant. And is that like, I can't be a great leader, mom, wife, person, friend, if I'm not being great
Mhm.
to myself first.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Yes.
have to, self-care is extremely important, I think, with people like us that are, the entrepreneur side of wanting to do everything, and trying to do so many different things, and then we forget about ourselves at the end of the day. And I have really kind of shifted that part of myself right now, where I spent the last, I would say, 6 months, 8 months, doing a lot of self-care, learning myself, learning how to love myself. And I think it's extremely important, because it makes you a better person and it helps you grow, and people see that too. Uh, They see a change.
Yeah. So you talked about like the entrepreneurs and the work. I feel like it's not that we want to do everything; we want to fix everything. We're like, oh, we can fix
Yeah.
that. But self-care and work. What's your thought process or your mindset around work-life balance?
So now, it's funny because before I used to, you jump to something like, the everything's falling apart, like, it's like the Jenga block of life, right? You take the one thing out and then all of a sudden it's kind of balancing, and you take another and then sometimes it all falls. And it's really learning how to deal with each of those blocks of my life. I kind of compare it to that, and not to think before I act. And that was a very big learning lesson for me, I would say, in the last 6 months, was to really evaluate the situation, step away, evaluate the situation, look at it, take accountability. There's a lot of things that I take accountability for now. Just the other day, one of our employees was on a deep clean, and uh, the client complained, and I said, "Well, were they trained to do deep cleans?" And they said, "No." I said, "Well, that's our fault. That's not the
Yeah.
employee's fault." So that's kind of like how I changed everything about my life. Like evaluate the situations, and I look at it and see what fell apart, what happened. How do we fix it? And I think it's extremely important to do that in every aspect of your life, relationships, people, employees, uh, your health. Um, one of the things, I'm going on 3 years being sober,
I
and
remember
it
that.
wasn't. Yeah, yeah, right.
Hmm.
We talked about it, and May 20th, I'll be 3 years sober from drinking, and you know, a couple months, 5 months before that, I stopped smoking cigarettes, and I smoked for like 30 years. And so that following May, I believe that was when I stopped drinking. But it wasn't that I went to rehab. It was one of those things where I try to do this a lot now too, is to listen to your intuition, listen to that voice inside your head. And, that was as clear as day to me that morning on May 20th. It was run $1 million company or run with the booze. And you just can't have both. And I just heard that voice and I said, all right, this is what I got to do. And I try to listen to that voice all the time. Inside, I do it with people and relationships and, everything. If people don't make you feel good inside, then you shouldn't have that relationship, and I do that a lot with nowadays, that I look at certain things. And if I always say, if you get that icky feeling inside, um, it's your soul, your intuition telling
Yeah.
you something about that person. So it's kind of this whole spiritual journey that I've been on, uh, as far as like listening to myself finally. And I sorry, I got a little emotional. I haven't done that in years and ever in my whole entire life.
That's amazing to hear. I love, stepping back and the listening and, not just reacting from emotion. It's very
Hmm.
hard to do and learn. I have a making framework I go through in my head before I answer anybody, before I get involved, and that way I'm not acting off my emotion or how I feel that
Hmm.
day or how bad or good that day was. And that's a huge thing to control yourself, like keep you from reacting. But it's
Hmm.
saved me so many relationships, bad decisions, costly decisions, whether they're financial
Hmm.
or emotional.
Yeah.
I want to ask
Yeah. It's
you
like,
a question about um, how do you feel when you stopped drinking, if you don't mind me asking?
yeah. Listen,
Um,
I'm an open book. You can ask me anything.
um, my ex was an alcoholic, so not saying you were an alcoholic. And it didn't start that way. We were 17 years old and he stayed 17 and I grew up. And we had a business together. And so that's why I learned how to really run businesses. Um, he was there. He was an amazing man. Loved him to the day he died. But it changed the way he interacted and led people,
Mhm.
to the point where he couldn't lead people anymore. And I want to know, how did that transformation change you as a leader?
Well, it changed me in so many different ways, not just being a leader, but also like a husband, a friend. It made me really evaluate relationships. So I think as a leader, it definitely, you know, I'll backtrack a little bit. It was very hard becoming sober. And the reason being is you have to kind of learn, you're discovering yourself. And that was something I never did before. I would always go to them, and so you're really relearning things about yourself. And I had to go backwards in my life. My father was an alcoholic, so that was a huge thing. And I'll be completely honest, both my parents were drug addicts. We didn't have a good childhood growing up. And we moved around a lot. I stayed back in school. So there was a lot of things that I had to look at and evaluate and discover why I am the way that I am. And I had to learn how to forgive myself. And once I was able to start forgiving myself, I became that leader and I became a better person. I get emotional. But I try to express that and tell that story to all my employees, that that every day we have opportunities. Every day is a new start of our life. And it doesn't and we learn new things every single day. And it's up to us whether or not we want to do it. And again, it's that intuition side of, you know, my mind is telling me not to have another drink, but I'm going to drink it anyway. So until people listen to that little voice that says don't have that other drink, or don't get behind the wheel, or don't eat that extra piece of cake, that's kind of that's made me the great leader that I am now with my employees. And it's been an amazing journey. I have become a better husband. My husband and I don't bicker or fight anymore. Not that we had a relationship of fighting. We never really did.
I
Uh,
think
when I met my
alcohol
husband,
helps avoidance. Like, instead of
yes,
talking about a situation, let's go have a glass of wine.
hmm yeah, yeah, and we I'm not as on edge anymore because you don't have those highs and lows of drinking and not drinking and drinking and not drinking and feeling like crap and pushing off the things that you need to do to make things happen, work better. So we have more honest and discussions with each other, and I do that with everything in my whole entire life. And unfortunately, I've not lost some friends, but I don't put myself in those situations of where those people were the ones that had drank. They were my drinking buddies.
Yeah.
So it was hard, because what do you have in common? You know, do you have anything in common besides alcohol? And so you really look at all those relationships, and that was that is what made me, I think, this leader now, to be able to speak to my employees the way that I do and share my experience with them. Like I am so open with them, and because our employees have had hard lives too, uh, and it gives them an opportunity to hear my success story.
Yeah, I think a lot of us service business owners come from not the greatest backgrounds. Um, on this podcast, I interview a lot of service owners, have friends where me and Aaron are mutual friends, but a lot of service business owners either come from, maybe parents that were alcoholic or drug issues, or even just extreme poverty. I interviewed somebody the other day, and he owns a lawn care company, and like he comes from extreme poverty where they didn't even have the money to eat. We come from those hard backgrounds. I think, one, the businesses are not easy to start, but we can do it. with a low startup cost, but we know what it takes to work because we've kind of suffered as a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're not
Yeah.
scared
There
to
was
put in the
times.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. There was, I went to a round table a couple weeks ago, and sh the the woman had said, self-determination leads to prosperity. And it was such an amazing thing that she had said, because it kind of just stuck out in my head that, if we, you know, like, especially entrepreneurs and people from backgrounds, like, it's up to us, like, how determined are you to have a better life, than you did before. And I do it every day. Every day we do it, right? And we say, all right, I'm determined to do this today in order for so I can have this later on. And it's amazing. I mean, the life of an entrepreneur, right? It's
Yeah.
it's an interesting life that we lead.
So speaking of the life of an entrepreneur, what advice would you give the young version of you that like what you've learned now? What advice would you give yourself or anybody who's just starting out?
For the young version of myself, I would probably tell myself that you're loved, that you're important, uh, that you can do anything that you set your mind to in this world. And excuse me, um, that's what I relate to my employees. To young entrepreneurs, I would say do everything that you imagine doing, whatever it is, and if it doesn't work out, try the next thing. I tell my employees all the time, never have any what ifs in your life. Do every single thing that comes to your mind and your imagination. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. At least you did it. And
Yeah.
try the next thing. And try
I
the
have
next
a saying, I'm a yes and person.
thing.
Like yes and I'll do that and we can do this and not I'm not a what if, I'm a yes and.
Yes, and I like that too.
Yep. So
Yeah.
definitely, so many lessons to learn, but I agree. I think that when we first start out, either the young version of ourselves or the s- emerging entrepreneur is that be kind to yourself. It's not easy.
Mm.
We don't do it because it's easy. We mainly do it because we want to help change other people's lives. That's the common theme I hear from every
Yeah.
entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And just give yourself some grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is kind of
And
the
tell
take.
yourself that you're doing a great job. I think that we are our worst critic always, because we think that we can always do more and more and more, and we put more stuff on our plate, and we put more stuff on our plate, and uh, it's just a matter of knowing how to manage it all, and to learn what is most important at that time. And it's an amazing journey doing the things that you want to do, that you think about. And I've done so many things, and some things have been very successful, and some things have not been so successful. And it's not the point of whether or not it was successful or not successful. It's the point of that I did it, and it was an idea that I had in my head, and I'm like, okay, I tried it, and I got that done, and it was great. It was amazing, and I have the memory of it, but I'm not going to do that again.
Yes. And I think for young entrepreneurs, they see some really, I would say, not common scenarios because of, let's just say, social media, the internet. Like, someone that can build 1 million followers in a month. And when they can't do it in a month, they get discouraged, or they see, a $10 million company, and, they tried it for 2 years, and why can't they be a $10 million company? But I don't think that social media really gives the real story of the work and the time that it took to do that, or the experience we brought with us from trying and doing something else, which then propelled us in the next thing that we did. And so you can't just try one thing. You can't just fail at one thing. Myself, I failed at a dozen things. I fail every day. But I take those failures, and the next thing I do, I learn from those, and I take those into account. So the next thing I do is more and more and more successful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you said that. I just had a conversation with some of my employees, and I tell them we do one-on-ones now. We do a quarterly meeting, and then we do one-on-ones, and then now we're scheduling a monthly Zoom with the whole group as well. And I told them, I said, listen, you might not work for us for the rest of your life. It might be 6 months, it might be a couple years, it might be 10 years, it might be the rest of your life. But what I want you to know is that anything that you want to do, and you came to me and said, Aaron, I'm going to go to school to be a hairstylist, I would support you 100%. And I would say, what can I do to help you? What do you need? And I told this to one of my employees the other day, and she said, oh my God, that's amazing. She goes, you wouldn't be mad? And I said, why would I be mad? I said, you're following your dreams of what you want to do. I said, and then if you go out and you do it and it doesn't work out, or you're not making the money that you thought, and you want to come back and work for us, at nighttime, or pick up a day or two here, I said, you can come back and work for us, and you could do that for the rest of your life. I said, that is what I want you all to know, is that you always have a place to come back to. And I will always support all of your dreams, and I will help you. You can ask me how to open up your own hair salon, and I can sit down with you and I can tell you exactly the steps and what you need to do to open up your own hair salon.
So it's funny that you say this, because when I hear that some of our employees want to open their own business, most people would get scared or threatened or and I'm like, oh, I can help you. I'm like, let me share with you all the things I made mistakes on so you don't make those.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get excited.
And that's part of being, and that's part of being a great leader, right? Because that's what leaders should do. And that's a good leader, because most of the time people would be like, well, good luck, don't bother with us anymore. And I'm like, no, what do you need help with? I'll help you.
Absolutely. So speaking on help or, journeys, what would you say the most proud moment you have or can remember in your entrepreneur journey?
Can you say that last part? You broke up a little bit.
What's the most proud memory you have of your entrepreneur journey?
I would say my sobriety, definitely is one of them. And learning to, again, love myself, and to be able to forgive myself for things that I did that I wasn't proud of, at times. And I think right now the part that I'm really proud of is realizing that there's so many things to be important. There's so many important things in life to experience and to share, and that's my part of wanting to be this leader. Like, I want to share my experience with the world. I want to tell everyone my story, that I grew up poor and with drug addict parents, and I didn't have a good upbringing, and that anybody can do anything that they want in life, and to give people the tools that they need to understand that they can do it, that they can get out of it. And I think that's my mission, I think.
That's awesome. One of the reasons I do some of the things I do is to help women in business, because we struggle a lot with self-doubt, the thought process of, if I don't clean the house, I'm less of a mom or less of a wife if I don't cook. But how do I do these things and run a business? How do I have both things? How do I not let self-doubt eat me from the inside out? Because, for me, it was a big struggle to let go of certain things that others would say would contribute to my self-worth as a mom or a wife. Giving up cleaning my house, hiring an assistant, hiring a house helper. What would my parents say? It was hard for me to let go of those things. And those are the ones that held me down, not necessarily business things. It was personal because then it gave me the time and capacity to work on the business.
Hmm?
They're
Yeah.
so
I
connected.
said to my husband, yeah, and that's amazing. I said to my husband the other day, because I've been listening to your podcast, and I said, Libby has a house helper tone. I said, I think we need a house helper. I said to him, I said, we need someone to do our laundry, do our meal prep. I'm like, we need someone to wash the cars, all the things that we don't want to do. Because when you're at the grocery store and you're going around and you're there for like an hour, hour and a half, I'm thinking of all the things that I could be doing. And yeah, so
Oh, so that's funny. So I'm going to tell you a story. This Saturday, went to the grocery store because my husband was sick and he wanted some soup. So me and Yaya went to the grocery store, and I'm pushing the cart around and I'm like, maybe I'll get something to cook for dinner. And then I'm thinking, I could not even think of the ingredients that we would need to cook a dinner. Like, there's just no more capacity left in my brain. Like, I'm just like,
yeah.
what do I need? What do we have at the house? Oh my God, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, I don't care. So I bought like a ready meal that was like made at the grocery store.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I told
Uh-huh.
my husband, I got back and I said, I just don't have any. We're opening another location of Organize It. Like, I just got so many things in my brain right now. I said, I didn't even have the capacity to think of the list of ingredients I needed to cook dinner for.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what do I
And that
need?
happens. Yeah. Yeah. You know what we do is it's great, Libby. You and Chris would probably love it. It's called Tovala. And it's like this oven, and you get like these gourmet meal prepped meals, and you just scan the card and you put the food in and it cooks it. It's like going
Oh,
out to dinner every night. Yeah,
nice.
it's
I'll
really
have to look at
amazing.
that.
It's called Tovala. Yeah. And they come,
Yeah.
you pick out your meals, and that's what we do, because I don't have the time to cook an hour and a half or prep for 20 minutes. And again, like, I wouldn't even know what to go get at the store to make a meal. It would be more of like a day process.
So, I love that you said this topic. It's not that, okay, time. So the reason I got into the house helper, and so Dan Martell's big on this. He's, you need a house manager. I called mine a house helper. And it's the time issue. So if you're working, that 4-hour work week is if the people that believe that there's a 4-hour work week only read the cover of the book. They did not read the book. And it sold this misconception that if I want to be successful, I want to only own a business so I can work 4 hours a week. And that's not the way it works, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
You have to put in a ton of time and a ton
yeah.
of hours. And it's like, when I stopped working, I could cook dinner for an hour and a half, or I could spend the hour and a half with my daughter and my son or my husband.
Mhm.
So it's choosing what's important to me. So then, yes, I pay other people to do those other things because I only have so much time. Like, me and Elon Musk have the same amount of time in a day. If he can get that done, then I sure as hell can get the things I need done.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like learning from those people, right? How do they do it? What do they do? I think that's also like another part of this journey that I'm on is looking at other entrepreneurs, listening to your podcasts. Like, I've learned so much. I've written down things, like looked at different things, and I'm like, well, that's how Libby does it, like, and then you listen to somebody else and you're like, okay, that's how they do it, and you try to manage, because I think as you get bigger and more projects that you're working on, you have to look at your life and say, how can I simplify certain aspects in life? And to be able to do all these great things that are up here in my head. And it's true. You have to learn from other people,
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap it up, any big plans? And we'll make sure we put in the show notes how you can get in contact with Aaron if you have any questions or you want to check out his business. We'll put in the show notes how you can get in touch with Aaron. But any last words or any big things happening in your life or for the future?
Sure. So yeah, we just filmed the first the pilot for our YouTube show, which is going to be following our renovation of the building. So it kind of will invite everyone into our lives. and our business, and to show the renovation process. You'll see we set up this couch that I'm sitting on right now. It's an old settee. It's like deconstructed, and we just basically set it up in this room. And you'll see us, the whole back of us, always constantly changing. With construction and walls and different things. So we're really excited about that. Tony was a little bit nervous in the beginning, but I think it's growing on him.
Awesome.
So yeah, we're doing that. We opened up another location. We're looking to open up 2 more locations. So I'm working on that right now. I just got the second location online. I finished it about a week ago. So yeah, so we're trying to expand a little bit more, and the YouTube show is going to be great, and the construction and life of renovation.
Awesome. So we'll make sure we put all that information in the show notes so our listeners can get in touch with you. But Aaron, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Fearlessness podcast. And I want to thank our listeners. If you want to find more episodes, you can find them on libbyd.com or thefearlessness.com. And that's a wrap, guys, on the journey into the heart of fearlessness. Remember, every step we take is a move towards our own strength and courage. Keep walking through those fires of hell, because on the other side lies a version of ourselves that's unstoppable. I'm Libby, reminding you to embrace fearlessness. Until next time, stay brave, stay bold, and keep pushing forward.